Hi, my name is Keith Leveson. I'm broker associate for MVP Realty and the team lead for Migrate Orlando. It's great to see you beautiful people again. Hopefully, you're happy to see me and trying out something new. Got the beard going. Most likely, it's going to be shaved here in the next week. So, if you enjoy it for this week, but it'll be gone by next week. Today, I want to talk about a topic of big concern, not just here in Florida, but we're seeing all across the nation, and that is rent prices soaring. Now, as rent soars, um, different states, different counties, they're doing their best to try and figure out how to handle this situation in a way that makes sense and fits with the law. Recently, one of the things that was up for being voted on was rent control. And while most people within Orange County voted for rent control, a judge found that it was unconstitutional and that the rent control votes won't be certified or counted for um, going ahead and proceeding with rent control in Orange County. So, what does that mean for uh, home buyers, for investors, uh, if you're looking to sell a home? What do these things mean for you? So let's go ahead and break it down. We're going to go ahead and we're going to start with investors. Uh, One thing that I think this is very clearly showing for investors is that while inflation is a big thing right now, we see it all over the country, right? Things that used to cost $2 are now $3, $4, right? We see inflation everywhere. And as a landlord, you may be trying to keep up with inflation. You also might see the advantage in being able to um, raise your rents, right? Because you can keep yourself uh, uh, competitive with rents in the area. I mean, I know in Lake Nona, a one bedroom apartment is renting for $1,900 a month, right? So you might see the advantage in that, and that's great. But one thing that I encourage investors to think about is think about the long run, right? One of the enemies of an investor is a vacancy or vacancy rates. And what you need to do is you need to think about setting your rent at a reasonable fee for the people in the area based on what they're earning, the prices in the area. Uh, all these things together, you need to look at and see what is really beneficial for your potential tenants. One way that I like to look at doing rent is this. Uh, Go ahead, set your rent, right? Let's say you set your rent at $1,600 a month for a two bedroom, okay? And you get swarmed with phone calls. Well, one thing that tells you is that most likely you set your rent way too low because people are swarming you. So slowly start to increase the rent till that swarm of people calling goes down to a trickle. Now you're starting to get to the point of where people are actually renting at, right? Because if you're at that point where it's a trickle, that means they're looking at uh, what you're offering and comparing it. They're comparing it. If the rent is too low, people aren't going to compare it. They're just going to take it. They're going to hurry up, call you, say, hey, is it available? Yeah, I want it. But if they're calling in slowly, that means what they're doing is they're taking your house that you're renting, townhome you're renting, duplex, whatever it is, and they're comparing it with the surrounding. And that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Okay? But remember, personally, I always think treat your tenants like gold, right? Because you're not making money if they're not paying their rent. And if you set rent so high that it makes more sense for them to go buy a home, then who's going to lose out? It's going to be you. So take good care of your tenants and really think about where you're pricing your apartment, your townhome, whatever it is, and set it according to what people are actually earning in that area. So that's for investors. Let's talk about um, tenants, people who are renting. Stop. Stop renting. Go buy a home. Go buy a home. Why? Because what does this tell you? If they're not allowing rent control in the area, then that means your rent could shoot up $300-$400. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've gone out with some investors recently, and we see 2 bedrooms, 1 bath that people are paying probably $1,100 a month for. Okay? They're paying $1,100 a month. And of course, those people don't want to move because where are they going to go and find a 2 bedroom, 1 bath in Orange County, Florida for $1,100? You're not going to find it. So these people, they're not moving. They're trapped. But here's the problem. Investors see the potential. And what they're doing is they're coming in and they're buying these townhomes, single family residences, duplexes, triplexes, whatever it may be. They're coming in and they're buying them. And while they cannot raise the rent while you are currently under your lease, so let's say your lease ends in May, they can't raise your rent till May. And in May, the majority of these new landlords that just bought that property, they're going to raise your rent by about $300 to $400. So you're going to go from paying $1,100 a month to somewhere between $1,400 to $1,600 a month. And that's just being straightforward honest. The majority of investors I'm working with, that's their plan. So why are you continuing to rent? When you rent, you have no control. You're not investing in your future. I like what a friend of mine said, Chris Salsi. He's a great realtor here in Orlando, works with MVP Realty, just like me. Awesome guy. He said something along the lines of that when you are renting, you're buying a home for someone else. And that's really what it is. You're buying a home for the landlord. Stop buying a home for the landlord. Just stop. Invest in your family. Invest in your future. It's time. Now, if you wait and you keep saying, well, I want to see what happens with interest rates. I want to see what happens with prices. I want to see. What do you think is going to happen? It's the same thing that's been happening over the past 2 years. The home prices were shooting up. There were bidding wars, and people said, I want to wait, and I want to see what happens. And guess what? Home prices kept going up. And now that home that they could have bought 2 years ago, they can't afford now. So it's time for you to invest in your family. What about if you're looking at selling? Okay, let's talk about sellers in this market. Well, now is still an amazing time to sell. Why? Because rent keeps going up. And the fact that they're looking at how to control rent shows us it's still a great time to sell. Yes, we are seeing sellers give concessions, right? But they're giving concessions really not so much out of a desire, but out of a necessity. And what do I mean by that? Well, interest rates are high, all these things are high, and they have to give some concessions just to get the deal done for the buyer, right? You have to, right now, giving concessions is not because the buyer is demanding them or the buyer, it's a buyer's market and they're holding stuff over you. It's none of that. It's just they need the concession. I'm on those phone calls. I'm on those phone calls with the lender and the buyer. And the lender is telling the buyer, look, hey, we can get you into a home at this price, but the seller is going to have to do this. So it's not even the buyer's idea. The lenders are the one telling the buyers the concessions they need to get the deal done. Okay, so yes, we are seeing seller concessions, but now is a great time to sell as rent prices continue to soar. But as soon as they figure out or they develop some way to control these rent prices and rent starts to drop, well, that's when as a seller you're going to be stuck. Because at that point, it's going to make more sense for that potential home buyer to continue renting than it does to make buying. And what do I mean by that? Okay, from a asset perspective, it will always make more sense to own your home. Always. Asset perspective, always better to own your home. All right, then rent. But another great realtor that I love, what he said is that a lot of people fail to realize that sellers, they live, in a sense, they live in that final price that they're getting. But the buyer lives in the monthly mortgage payment. That's where the buyer lives. That's their concern. You never really see a buyer say, oh, it's 400,000, it's 430,000. No, that doesn't make sense. What you see buyers say is, oh, it's 400,000, what's my mortgage payment? It's 430,000, what's my mortgage payment? They live in their monthly mortgage payments. That's really important because as soon as those monthly mortgage payments are more, significantly more than what they're paying in rent, guess what? It's going to make more financial sense for the majority of people to continue renting. So, if you're a seller, stop going back and forth. It's time to sell your home. I've been telling everybody, if you are thinking about buying or selling, whether it's as an investor, buying your own home, first time home buyers, if you're selling your home to upsize, downsize, whatever it is, in the next 2 to 3 months, it's time we talked. We need to talk now. Do not wait. So you're going to see a link in the description of this video that connects to my Calendly, and you can set up an appointment with me for us to have a conversation. And it's time to do it. Do not delay. If you like this video, please subscribe, follow us, click the bell to get notices of when we have new videos posted. Please share this video. We try to produce great content, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'd love to hear from you in the comments section, and I'll see you on the next one.